I told Des since he wasn't here today that I went in there and picked up some of the paint pens and started doing some work on his latest piece.
No, I would not let that happen, Des. I would not let that happen. All right, buddy. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Y'all, I don't know, man. It's been intense this morning. It's been
yes, it has.
It's been good. It's been good though, but I think it's been really good. I think it's been a platform for everyone to speak their mind on the topic. I think it's one of those topics that, again, very much like the Marcus Smart and some of the other things that have happened. It's going to be one of those topics that, people are going to get tired of hearing it, but at the end of the day, it's such a big and controversial and cultural topic, and especially in the part of the country that we live in, that has to be addressed and needs to be heard from by all sides. So, it was, to me, listening to some of the things that people were saying this morning was eye-opening on how people feel about it. I have a couple of positions on it. One of my positions is absolutely unacceptable, and I think the president did an awesome job at handling it. There was no toleration for it. It wasn't going to happen on his campus, and he made a decision that needed to be made. And I think everyone's happy with that. I think the second thing is, the comparison between the Mixon issue and then this SAE issue. My personal opinion is you kind of learn through trial and error. You do something and you can't really go back and recant it, or go back and say, hey, I think we should have done this. And you suspend these kids and you suspend this fraternity, and then you go back and start dealing with something that happened a year or 2 or 3, 4 ago. You kind of live and you learn and you put together a procedure that's going to be the staple every time going forward if any of these incidents happen again. I heard one caller said it's like comparing apples and oranges, but it's still fruit. It doesn't matter if it's an apple and an orange. It's an intolerable situation. That kid can't be at that school. He shouldn't have been. You don't do that. I don't care. Hit a woman doing racist slurs. To me, they're two really bad situations, and it's intolerable. And if that's the culture you're going to create, you got to hold it up on all fronts.
Yeah, you're probably right on the Mixon front. What gets me about the and I know we're comparing punishments now, and that's not really where I didn't mean for this to go there in terms of punishments. I was the reaction by the university to these two separate things was where I was just like, okay, that's interesting to me. But I will say, we talked about when it came to Mixon, we talked about how, Mixon, that was almost wrong place at wrong time on top of what he did, because if not for Ray Rice happening in that same month, that maybe this wouldn't be, maybe the Mixon thing wouldn't be as big a deal. And now we're saying, now just months later, we're going, wow. Now the reaction to something completely different is even more punitive. And now we're going back and going, how come he didn't do that with Mixon? I mean, it's just amazing how far we have come in terms of just evolving, in terms of evolving towards things that happen. I'm trying to come up with the right words, but you understand what I'm saying? Like we're evolving to a place now where before Ray Rice happened, I don't know if we'd even be at this point, if that makes sense.
Well, I think, too, is that, you look at the situations, and this is my personal opinion, and I look at it from the actual act of what happened and then the shadow it casts over the university. Mixon, it's an individual act. It's an individual act that he goes out and he does this thing. It doesn't change the fact that he'd done it, and it was extremely wrong. I got a mom, I got sisters, I got a daughter. I mean, he's extremely wrong in what he did, but it's an individual act, and it can be dealt with through the football team and through the school, but through the team and through the coaching staff saying, we don't want my team anymore. And then he just has to deal with the law enforcement, and then he's kind of on his own after that. This situation casts such a big shadow because it's so bigger and it's so much more controversial and it's a group saying something that's been a huge issue with this fraternity And you're starting to hear all these stories now come through in other states and other universities, but it becomes this huge issue. But it's a bigger shadow over the university, especially just with that situation. And so that's how I distinguish the two. But in saying that, there is some validity to going back and saying, well, why wasn't this dealt with? If we're not tolerating these things, so you mean to tell me that you would tolerate this, but you won't tolerate that? I can understand how people can go back and argue that. But it is hindsight, and that's a learning process. And I promise you it's going to be things in place that won't allow any of that to happen again. But then there's going to be something else down the line that they're going to have to deal with as a first time or traumatic situation that they'll learn from going forward. But it's been a process. Should he be there? No. Was it dealt with wrong back then? I think they were dealing with it the way they felt was proper then. Now, if they had to go back and do it all over again, he wouldn't be there, for sure.
Yeah, my thing, Desmond Mason with us on 107.7 The Franchise. My thing is, my problem that I have with this, my true problem, Desmond, and you tell me whether I'm crazy or not, is that that I think, in my opinion, the difference between the punishment that Joe Mixon received and the reaction, let me just go with the reaction. The reaction that David Boren had to what happened on the SAE bus and the reaction that David Boren had, which was very minimal, in my opinion, to what Joe Mixon did, is that there wasn't a video that was made public. And to me, that because I know he saw the video, and I know he saw the Mixon video, but because it didn't go public, we have a lesser reaction. In other words, I'm not so sure the reaction might have been the same as it was with the SAE video if the Mixon video had just been released to the general public. Am I crazy?
I'm going to say that it's again, I'm not going to compare these situations, but I'm going to say that act, as I was saying earlier, the Mixon act was an individual act. Whether the video was public or not, if you respect women and you saw this video, if you had a chance to visually see this video and see what a guy did to a young lady, it would be disgusting to watch. And again, he had to make the decision on the president had to make the decision on what he was going to do then. It's still an individual act, and it can be dealt with. You kind of push him along, and he deals with the law enforcement or whatever you go. But I don't think it casts that big of a shadow. This casts such a big shadow because of the subject matter. I mean, it's racism, and it's a big deal. And it's not like one guy said the N-word. It's a full-blown song, and they're standing up on the microphone chanting and pumping fists, and people are clapping. Like, that is, like, everyone's engaging that. That's a bigger shadow.
But, Des, my thing is we should be reacting to these things the same way. We should be.
Hey, I just said, you can't. I'm not going to compare the two, but I'm just saying that there's certain things that promote an immediate disgust. And there's certain things that you almost have to digest a little bit. That doesn't make them less wrong. But there's things that you digest a little bit. So, for instance, men hitting women, and mostly in football nowadays, men hitting women, it's been happening way too often. And I'm not saying it's accepted by any means because it is absolutely unacceptable. It's been happening way too often. It's like every season you get a couple of them, a few of them. Something happens. But when is the last time you've seen a bus full of kids chanting the N-word, talking about hanging black people, in a song all in unison on the microphone, laughing and joking? When's the last time you've seen that or even heard of it? It's such a bigger issue, and it's so just culturally, it's way out of the box. It's way out of the box for our culture today, especially with kids that young. Now, it's different if you hear a couple of 70, 80-year-olds, and it doesn't make it acceptable, but they're talking about it at a coffee shop in the corner, and you kind of slip and hear them say the word. But when you hear 18, 19, 20-year-olds singing a song that they all know, and they're clapping, and they're videoing it, and they're smiling and laughing, there's just the immediate reaction is so much more harsh. And again, it doesn't make Mixon's issue any less evil. But I'm just saying the immediate reaction is so much more harsh because of that situation.
You know what strikes me with both of these issues is it's become so much easier to point out who the idiots are in the world with Twitter and camera phones and all the technology we have today. The first one I can remember, guys, is when Michael Richards when Kramer was caught saying the N-word when he was doing a stand-up comedy. I remember thinking, holy cow, I can't believe you just did that. Yep. And if that one person back, however long ago that was, 7-8 years ago, wouldn't have had a camera phone, we would have heard stories about it, but it never would have had the same impact that it had seeing the video. And, maybe out of all of this, maybe that is the good side of technology. We do see these idiots being idiots, and it's out there forever. You can't erase that video ever.
Yep.
I'll say this. It also shows people's true colors. It shows their true colors in the world today with social media and technology and so on and so forth. And that can be good and that can be bad. One, you don't want phony people around you anyway. You just don't want people that are acting one way in front of you and then doing something different behind your back. But what that also does as a retired African American athlete, and if I was playing, and you're starting to see it now with the whole recruiting situation and people, all this speculation and kids withdrawing, doing other things. But what happened is you start to become very guarded. Because you're like, oh, okay, are they racist or are they not? Do they really like me? Do they not like me? I mean, you start to become guarded, and you're doing it at 18, 19, and 20, during a time where you should really be enjoying your life, especially going off and getting a scholarship and maybe getting out of whatever your life situation is back home, whether it be good or bad. But this will be a joyous time in your life. And now you're going into these situations wondering if your fellow schoolmates are talking behind your back, are they calling you the N-word, are they saying one thing about you and then doing something different? You become very guarded. And to me, that's just a horrible way to live. But, that's society. Society can be harsh. But it's a horrible way to live. Not knowing if the people that are smiling and clapping for you while you play on the field because you're running real fast and you're jumping real high, are they really for you? Or are they just doing it because you're helping their school win? What's most important?
How do you react to this guy on Twitter? And we'll let you go after this. So what Dez is saying is that it's okay for the rappers to sing about killing cops and people.
I would say this, and I was just having a conversation with my mom. I said, if African Americans as a society don't want that word thrown around, then we should not use it. It should be a word that becomes extinct. And our thought process and our talking. And I come from a place that word was used like buddy, homie, and from all races. Mexicans saying it back and forth to each other. It becomes like a word like blood or homie. I mean, it was a very general word. Now, to me, as I say, I don't think if you don't want the word to be said, make it extinct from your vocabulary. And the one thing I can say about hip-hop music is hip-hop music has always been somewhat violent. But, again, it has been violent. That's not every hip-hop artist. But also there's other music that talks about drugs and all kinds of other things as well that isn't hip-hop. It talks about violence and killing. That isn't hip-hop. And we can go back and start looking at some of those songs. Rappers are rapping experience. They're rapping what they live. They're rapping how they live and what they've done. But let's be clear, not all rap music, not all other music is clean as well. Because there's some heavy metal music back in the day that what they were talking about was crazy. A lot of it was subliminal, a lot of underlying, little punchlines, metaphors. Same in alternative music. Same thing.
Johnny Cash shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
Listen, getting high, all these other things. I mean, there's other music that speaks things that it's not very wholesome as well. So, I want to be clear with that one. But I don't condone any of that kind of violence. I never have, never will. And if we're going to start debating hip-hop music where guys are just speaking maybe some of their experience and a lot of it's made up against something that happened real, I mean, you can get out of here with that one. He can. Yep.
No, it happens. It happens everywhere. Not just rap music. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I think that's all I got for you. That was good. Well done. You come in here and you say everything far more eloquently than I did, and it kind of pisses me off. So get out of here.
I promise I didn't draw a phallus on your painting too.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, Zach. Why nobody likes you on the radio? What's up with that?
Oh, they all hate. Well, it's because I can't be as eloquent as you. Damn it!
Because you're not on today.
Here I am mumbling all over my word. Yeah, this wouldn't happen if you would have just came in here today. Damn it! No, I'm kidding.
Just know this much: not everybody likes Kobe either. That's the way you got to look at it.
You don't. You don't.
Not everybody like, hey, but you know what? He one of the best players to ever do it.
That's right. Oh, so
like
you saying I'm one of the best ever at radio? That's
No, I think what he's saying is he doesn't like you
compliment.
or Kobe. I think is what he's saying.
I was giving you a compliment.
I know you were. I know you were. I'm just twisting your words. I'll see you, buddy.
All right, man.
All right, man. Desmond Mason on 107.7 The Franchise.